I posted my exact camping location on the internet just to see if anyone would come camping.
All the men who say male privilege doesn't exist, all the white people who say white privilege doesn't exist, that's a motherfucking privilege right there. Posted his exact camping, aka in the depths of the forest in solitude location on the internet. And it went smoothly. Did not get hate crimed, kidnapped, or unalived. I'm still out here trying to say that white privilege and male privilege doesn't exist. Now you listen here, Buster. Don't give a rat's badonkus if you grew up poor. That right there is some privilege. If I ever did that shit, I'd end up on a milk carton faster than Usain Bolt can run a 100-meter dash. A missing persons report would get started the moment the idea even popped into my mind. It's one thing to post your location if you're at like a Starbucks, but it's another thing to post your location when you're in the middle of a forest. That's Dexter's wet dream. The fact that you could do that is privilege. That is privilege in and of itself. You still don't get it after this video, you're a lost cause. Lost cause.
You have African-American rappers saying N-word this and N-word that, but a Caucasian can't.
So say it.
Say what?
Say the word you want to say.
I'm not saying that I want to say it. I'm just saying that I can't.
Sure you can. Say it. Say it right now. I will say it with you.
Okay, this is hypocritical. You know we can't.
Sure you can. This is America. Both of you. Say it.
All right, I think we can move on.
Why? Why move on when you want to say it? Both of you want to say it. Huh? All together, everybody.
Elderly coworker just said this to me right now. Doing a good job at work is like being a good hoe. The better you are, the more you get fucked. But that's really resonating with me right now.
If you've ever dealt with the struggles of the United States healthcare system and want a cathartic read, this is an excellent book for you. And there's an essay in this that I absolutely adore because it is exactly my experience with more than 10 years of trying to get good medication. An entire essay of this book is devoted simply to just what medications Emily has tried and how much they cost and how they made her feel. Invega is an antipsychotic that I have tried. It made me feel restless, like the motor inside me wasn't mine. Cash price, $1,300. Zyprexa made me feel like being underwater. And one of the parts I love about this essay is how much you have to analyze your own past and even try to remember, because at some point in my journey, it's been hard to remember what medications I've even tried. This is a personal essay told through the prohibitively expensive drugs and what they do to you. If you want to learn a little bit more about this book, check out this podcast, Schizophrenic Reads. New episode with Emily Maloney, and there's a new episode every week. So I would check out this podcast. I think it's pretty
Talk a lot about the importance of knowing our history as trans people. As a trans man, I found it particularly difficult for me to find information about the trans masculine and the trans men who have come before me until I got involved in community in Los Angeles and heard it through word of mouth. I want to start this video series where I can put this information out there. I want to start with somebody really special to me. His name is Lucky Alexander. He is the author of The In-Between. He's literally recognized by the Library of Congress as activists for this community. Remember in 2020 in Hollywood, there was actually a mural on the street that says all Black Lives Matter, and it's in the trans colors. Lucky was the artist who did this. Lucky did this. Lucky is the founder of the Invisible Men Project, which is an organization to help trans men literally do exactly this, tell their stories. His book all about being a trans man. This one is called Man of My Experience. Anybody that's ever met Lucky always has a smile on their face. I could tear up thinking about how included he makes every person feel when they're around him. He's just done so much work for this community, specifically Los Angeles. If you have not purchased his book, you should go get The In-Between or look up the Invisible Men Project or just give him a follow. We love you, Lucky. You're a sweetheart.
I just got the worst news of my life. The Lamborghini I wanted got sold.
Are you telling me that these fucking things are $100,000?
Hi, I'm calling to see how long the wait list is in regards to getting on for affordable housing. 10 to 12 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm having like the worst day out of everybody on this app, and it feels like no one cares. My family just finished like our perfect summer vacation, and now my dad's saying we have to go to Paris again for our 7th.
Literally my fucking child. Maybe so she could sell them to pay our rent because she thinks we don't have money for our rent.
Apparently, our Supreme Court is going to be deciding if rent control is constitutional or not.
Today, you have
It's so bad because he bought me
$244.27 worth of debt. Oh, you thought you was good. Now go ahead and cook that.
And I'll tell you how the American political system is designed to polarize and divide us.
Who is us? Like, it's not working class people that Yang is talking about. The division is happening because the economic ruling class works with the bureaucrats in order to divide the working class so that we can't all come together and overthrow them. One of the most important steps, I think, in achieving working class solidarity and working towards working class liberation is to understand that most of these mainstream political candidates like Yang or Hillary or Joe Biden aren't actively working and fighting for what's within the best interest of working class people. Because more often than not, their solidarity is not with us, it is with the economic ruling class, the bourgeoisie. And I'm not just talking out my ass. Andrew Yang is a capitalist. He likes capitalism. I don't know, just a reminder with the coming election that just because these politicians are making cute, trendy TikTok videos, they don't actually care about you.
We actually sleep in separate beds. So you guys are getting divorced? No, I snore really loud and she moves around a lot. So no divorce. No divorce. That would not work in my marriage. April's going to Tennessee. Your wife's leaving you? She's flying out there. But she's not coming back? What? It's just a trip with friends. That wouldn't work in my marriage. Yeah, we both masturbated. Well, we're in a library. Right, sorry. But yeah, I mean, we both do it. Separately? Usually. That would, we don't talk about that in my marriage. We're pretty open about each other's past partners. I'm pretty sure I'm her first. You met at 35. Yeah. I mean, we're fine with flirting with other people. You guys are having affairs? I said flirting, not cheating. Sure. Yeah, we've watched Corn together. Why? So you're my therapist now, right? Yes. Those just aren't things you do in marriage. Some of those things will work for some people and some of them won't. But I think maybe we could try to figure out why you think they're things you don't do. I mean, to me, it's all just so unusual. Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, look at that. Figured that out quick.
I'm reading a really incredible book right now, but I found something that was just insanely upsetting. I'm reading Health Communism, which is authored by the host of the Death Panel podcast, which is one of the most essential podcasts that you can listen to. And let me tell you what I found out. This is from the chapter called Border, which argues that healthcare needs to be a human right. And also, the only way to make it anti-capitalist is to make it universal for everyone. What I found out that was so upsetting was that developing countries, specifically in Latin America, need money from the World Bank and the IMF in order to progress as a country. And one of the things that the World Bank institutes is that they need to cut social spending, which almost always comes in privatization of healthcare. They don't make it so they need to make their own markets. They make it so that American markets can come into countries and basically just fleece countries for their healthcare. Studies as old as 2001 are showing that it's not actually cost effective. They provide worse healthcare. But you know who makes money? Executives in the United States. In order to receive help as a country, you have to make sure that American executives in some of the most corrupt institutions get their cut of it.
Okay, champ, you're a leftist, it's Thanksgiving dinner, the cranberry sauce is going around, and then Aunt Christy hits you with some bullshit like this. Now, you can either duke it out or you can give her the radical nudge. So here's what you're going to do. You got to meet Christy where she is right now. In her world, if someone has money, they worked for it. If they didn't work for it, that wouldn't be right, and that is your in. Now, behind this comment is a lot of anger at people who have money but didn't work for it. She is mad at the welfare bums, and you got to make her mad at billionaires too. Okay, so you say, I get it, Aunt Christy. Bam, you just step to her side. Okay, now make her believe it. Working hard should pay well, right? Yes, it should. She's saying yes, you're walking together. And doing nothing shouldn't be a way to get filthy rich, right? Exactly. She's thinking you finally are coming around here. Now here's where you show Aunt Christy a whole new world. You say, Dave Ramsey says the stock market goes up about 10% a year over the long run. You're using a source that she trusts. So say you put $100 in January. Next year you have $110. But did you work for that $10 that popped into existence? No. You bought a piece of paper that entitled you to the profits other people work to make. Their work made $10 go into your pocket because you bought stock. Dramatic pause, let it take hold, now escalate. Say you put in $1 million. Now you get $100,000 without doing any work. Pour it on right here, let her eat. If it were $1 billion, you'd get 100 million. No work, just owning the work people like you do every day, Aunt Christie. America has 700 billionaires. That's at least 700 people earning at least $100 million on an average year, all with no work. Sure, they might invent a company, but in the background, this program is running, making them crazy rich all the time, no matter what they do, and they just hand it to their kids. And what gets me, Aunt Christie, is that they pay a lower tax rate than you do. That's where you stick the landing. It ain't right. And everybody who's not in the ruling class should get together and change it. Can you see what I'm saying? And there's the radical nudge. All right, now get back in there and change some hearts and minds, okay?
Imagine the day they see you again. And you are just, well, better.
I fell in love with the most beautiful soul.
Maybe it couldn't work out in the end.
Get ready with me for Broken Head Powwow. Honored. Beaded hair ties. Moccasins and leggings. Jingle dress. Belt. Beaded choker. Beaded cuff. Earrings. She's all done.
Yeah, you got some silverware, but really, are you eating though? Are you eating though? Nigga, are you eating though?
One of the many ways that colonial mental health, wellness, self-help culture shows up in our society is through the framework of control, power, and domination. And the way that that looks like is using verbiage like, we just need to be able to control our thoughts, our feelings, our mind, our bodies. This idea that you need to force yourself into a state of discomfort in order to regulate your emotions. And ultimately, this extends into the medical and psychiatric industrial complex where these very tools of force are used as an extension of policing, of coloniality, of systems of oppression that are at play. Tactics of domination can never be used to heal from complex trauma and ongoing forms of trauma that the marginalized are experiencing on an everyday basis. And it becomes dangerous when we conflate things like regulating our emotions with controlling them.
Some
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Is autism a fungus?
No. And y'all's obsession with curing autism is weird and dangerous. And the only thing that usually comes out of these is autism A, B, or C conversations is a bunch of parents feeding their autistic children bleach. Like, what the fuck are you all detoxing all the time? Your child is still going to be autistic, and that's okay. All right? You all need to start unpacking your anger with having a disabled child. Because all the speculation is incredibly dangerous, and quite often leads to autistic children getting killed. A child's first experience with ableism is not going to come from the outside world. It's going to come from you all.
It's hell on earth and the city's on fire. In heaven.
I can't relate to how I've drawn out in Sharpie where I take the scissors if that's what it took for me to look in the mirror. I've done every diet to make me look thinner, so why do I still feel so...
Why are you doing this?
Good news, that's all they wanna hear. No, they don't like you when I'm down. But when I'm flying, no, it make them so uncomfortable, so different. What's the difference? When it ain't that bad, it could always be worse. I'm running out of gas, hardly anything left. Hope I make it home from work. So tired of being so tired. Well, I gotta build something beautiful just to go set it on fire. No lie, but sometimes the truth don't sound like the truth.
Listen, I would never force you to read a book, but you'd be doing yourself a favor.
This reminds me of a horror story that I listened to on a podcast. It was either like Tales to Terrify or No Sleep or, one of the other dozen or so horror podcasts. But it stuck with me. It took place in a world where capitalism and wealth inequality had gotten so extreme to the point where if you were poor, people were selling off parts of themselves to survive. Like limbs, organs, facial features. And the predatory class that was buying these things could afford to do so because medical technology had gotten to that point. And it was sort of like in the fashion to just have spare body parts. And so anyway, jobs were super scarce because a lot of things had been automated. But one thing that you could do was rent yourself out for services. And so the protagonist in the story, he gets this job and he's hired on at this mansion party as human furniture. And he is hired on as an ashtray, and it's just utterly horrific. Like, you can't use the bathroom, you can't speak, you can't express your discomfort, you're an ashtray. Ashtrays don't speak. And at the party, he sees some really twisted, fucked up stuff, but there's like a person that I think he knows there who's hired on as a chair, and they basically give out because they're just utterly exhausted and end up getting murked by the by the predatory class that's hosting the party. And just seeing this video brought that immediately to the forefront of my mind. And granted, this is a hypothetical scenario where, like, what if you were to earn $10,000 a month doing this? Like, that's not the point. The money is not the point. It's that, you know, human dignity for people who are in extreme positions of wealth, like, that doesn't have a price tag. If you are hungry enough, if you are desperate enough to pay your bills, like, you will do whatever it takes to pay your bills. And versions of this already exist. Like, I was watching this documentary where in the Philippines, people often sell their kidneys because that is one of the few ways that they can get a lump sum of cash to be able to, like, support and feed their families. And we already know how horrific some of the working conditions are in warehouses and, you know, specifically like Amazon. And it's always like, you know, the best horror takes a version of our reality that we're currently living in and just turns it up to 11. Same thing with Parable of the Sower. That series, like, Octavia Butler just does such a brilliant job in extrapolating the current conditions under capitalism just to 11. But anyway, seeing this video triggered that memory, so I had to make a little post about this. If you happen to remember what story that was and who the author was, share it in the comments.
You may not think blackface is still with us today. You've seen the garish images of white people painting their faces with burnt cork or grease paint a century ago and dancing around or cracking jokes, and you think, God, how could they think that was okay? Thank goodness we're past all that now. But are we?
Don't play with that girl, because she is not one of them. Yeah.
I'm Dara Star Tucker, and this is The Breakdown. This practice has received an update in recent years with the onslaught of white influencers using artificial means like tanning spray, bronzers, makeup, Photoshop, and even plastic surgery to darken their skin or change their features so much that they appear to be black or biracial. This can extend to hairstyles like do-rags, box braids, cornrows, and afros, and clothing styles that represent strong cultural markers within the African American community. Add to that the adoption of the so-called black scent to mimic the speech patterns of someone from the inner city.
Popeyes, dick thighs, I make it rise. Not a damn thing. Now go on somewhere with all that.
And you may start to understand why this can come off as trying on blackness like a costume. Basically the whole idea of the blackface of old. This has become so common that there's now a term for it, blackfishing. It was coined by hip-hop journalist Juana Thompson, and it's a portmanteau derived from the words blackface and catfishing. The problem with so-called blackfishing is that these aesthetics and behaviors are generally seen as low class or undesirable when the black community engages in them. But as soon as a well-known white influencer or celebrity decides to make them fashionable, suddenly they're all the rage. Styles like Bantu knots, cornrows, or box braids are what are known as protective styles for black hair. They are often necessary to keep the hair in its healthiest state. Black people made them fashionable over time because, well, that's what black people do. But to see them co-opted for unearned street cred by the very people that shunned you for wearing them is the height of hypocrisy. But it's not just a slap in the face. It carries inherent exploitative properties as well. The pain that a little black girl experiences when she's made fun of in school for the size of her lips is minimized when suddenly dozens of Instagram models are getting tons of followers for getting collagen fillers in their lips. A young black man wearing locks and a do-rag is followed around the store because he looks like a criminal. Meanwhile, a white singer from the suburbs of Toronto does the same thing to shed his teeny bopper image and increase his edge. The truth is, there's a long history of black people having their images, their speech patterns, and aesthetics, even their history, co-opted and exploited, while others find a way to profit from them. It isn't that far from what was going on 100 years ago. It's just been updated for the 21st century. Many people of that time scoffed at the idea that blackface could be seen as degrading or damaging to black people. To them, it was just good, clean fun.
The minstrel show, the wholesome and fascinating form of entertainment which has been used in churches and schools and clubs all over the country for many, many years. So because minstrelsy means good, clean fun and wonderful music, we continue in the spirit of all good minstrel shows with the greatest of dignity and respect.
Is it possible that this kind of appropriation will also be looked down upon in a generation or two?
There are a lot of things about climate change that are completely predictable, and there's a lot of things about climate change that are completely unpredictable, and I'm learning something about something that has happened in Miami that is, like, just genuinely horrifying. During Hurricane Andrew in South Florida in 1992, a python breeding facility was destroyed and released pythons into the Everglades. And now there are suspected to be hundreds of thousands of giant pythons in the Everglades. And in the past decade, they have started a veterans nonprofit group which has to go out and take care of the problem of capturing these pythons. Climate change has basically created a snakes on the plane scenario for South Florida. And if you remember from a few years ago, there was a viral video of an octopus being found in a residential parking garage. It's predictable that the climate apocalypse is coming for the city of Miami. And if you want to find out more what it's doing to more regions, read my favorite book of the year, The Great Displacement.
My lovers got human. They're the giggle at a funeral. Knows everybody's disapproval. Should have worshipped them sooner. If the heavens ever did speak, they're the last true mouthpiece. Every Sunday's getting more bleak. Fresh poison each week. We were born sick. You heard them say it. My church offers no absolute. They tell me worship in the bedroom. The only heaven I'll be sent to is when I'm alone with you. I was born sick, but I love it. Command me to be well.